let's go into the men's draw to begin with, because we have Jannik Sinner heading that draw as the top seed and world number one. I think everyone on the internet, since the draw has broken, has been in somewhat agreeing that it's not the easiest draw for Jannik Sinner. You know, he's only had one tournament back, which obviously he got to the final in Rome, but he's still relatively fresh from his 3-month ban. And some people saying he's been slightly unlucky with the hand he's been dealt with this draw. What do you think? Who in his draw and his pathway through have you got your eye on as being potential bogeymen for Jannik Sinner?
It's tough.
Joel?
I think it's tough, don't you?
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, he's obviously got Draper in his quarter. Not ideal, but I mean, closer to home in that first week. Davidovich Fekina, I always feel like he can, he can be a threat, or he can at least hang tough, I think, with top players. So I think that could be an early test for Sinner. You've got Rublev, who, he's the 17th seed, which is, it's just, I mean,
shocking.
It's shocking, isn't it? But that, it almost like makes him even more dangerous, because he's going to be having to possibly face Rublev early on. Feast there as well. De Minaur. Yeah, it's really, really tricky for Sinner. I don't think being the world number one this time has really kind of afforded him the most comfortable draw, let's say.
Yeah, I think that third round with ADF or maybe Yuri Lehechka could come through. That might be his first big test. I mean, Richard Gasquet could be his second round opponent, and it is Gasquet's last hurrah. He is retiring after this tournament,
Yes.
so
All
way to
French,
go out.
nice
and an
French
all French
farewell.
match. Do you think that will be a night session that may not be the most attended by those outside of France?
Yes, it's two wild. Gasquet's in on a wild card. He's playing Terence Atmane. I'm probably saying that completely non-French, but two wild cards. They've got to give that some kind of
It's gonna be
big time.
Chatrier or Longlong. One of the two.
Or just maybe not the most interesting for the non-French crowd, but Gasquet has been a stalwart of French tennis for many years, so he deserves a solid send-off. But maybe he'll be able to eke out a win, play Sinner in the second round, and get time on Chatrier that way. Jack Draper's draw, let's go to him. He is the 5th seed for the first time in a slam. It's remarkable, really, the run he's had this year so far. What do you make of his draw? I'm looking forward to a potential second round with Gael Monfils. I think that could be quite fun. But are there any sort of trouble in his draw, do you think? Or is he kind of sail through to reach the quarterfinal spot that his seeding now would endear him to, do you think?
I mean, you'd hope he would, wouldn't you? But I can't. The memory of last year, I've not quite forgotten that sort of 5-set, sort of harrowing loss that we had. Was that against De Jong, I believe? I haven't forgotten it, but maybe I have.
Yes,
I'm going to
for
say
De
De
Jong.
Jong, yes, exactly. And he had form coming in as well. I felt like he was not in a bad spot. So there is more expectation. I think he has had some great results on the surface. But when it comes to 5-set slam tennis on clay, it is a bit of a different customer. I think a lot of players find it hard to get through easily, and I think the more physical it becomes, some question marks might arise. I don't think you'd want to play Monfils second round, a French player. That would be a big match in week one. I'd love to be at that if that could happen, but I do think that could be slightly less comfortable than you might think if it was on another surface in another location.
I think also in this section of the draw, Hubert Hurkacz against João Fonseca, that could be quite a fun first
Upset
round.
alert.
Could well be, yeah. And you got Alex de Minaur, he's fairly consistent, 9th seed. He could well come through this, but it's tricky to say. And Jack Draper's never been past the first round here, so I'm somewhat reluctant to put him deep.
Surely
but,
no one
given
would predict he'd go to the final, right?
the form that he's had. Who knows? We'll see.
I will say, yeah, I think it is interesting because he is the 5th seed. There is more expectation there. More so than I think, previously in this, in the season in his career. So it will be interesting to see how he handles that. One other player I think might be interesting to watch is a fellow Frenchman, Alexandre Muller, who defeated Alexander Zverev yesterday. So he's up against Menchik in the first round. So maybe that could be on upset alert.
Yeah, I think Mensik though he could go deep. I'm Yeah, we'll see. We'll be unveiling our predictions later on. Let's talk about Zverev, though, because he is in the second quarter of the draw as the third seed. He finds himself in the same quarter as Novak Djokovic. But like you said, Joel, Zverev not in good form, lost to Muller yesterday. He's got Lerner Teen in the first round, who's,
tough.
young, up and coming, tough player. Is Zverev likely to defend his points from last year's final, do we think? Or is this looking like, given his form, a bit of a tricky one for him?
I am licking my lips if I am Lerner Tien, because I think he's got a chance against Zverev. Because it's just not clicking for him, and he's not playing as good as Zverev was playing last year. And I certainly think Tien has a shot. Particularly with Zverev, and I feel like he's sometimes quite slow to start at Grand Slams, and maybe Tien could make the most of that opportunity.
That's a good. Would you say it's likely that you can see him making a deep run here?
I mean, the thing that I think that when I look at Zverev and what is around him, I think for me, a player I called out at the start of the clay swing, Cerundolo, I think is going to be quite a tricky customer if that matchup does happen. I think he's the form player on clay at the moment. He's the player I'm actually looking at to make a deep run from the section, because it really feels to me like a quarter of opportunity, because the highest seeds, Zverev and Djokovic at the bottom, both players I feel like are going to be looking at the French Open as a way of playing themselves into form as they potentially go through the draw.
Yeah, as we're recording this, Djokovic, he's played one match in Geneva so far, and he's due to play at Arnaldi today, but still undecided. So we're not entirely sure how his week in Geneva is going to go. But he opens against Mackenzie McDonald. He may face Mute second round, Shapovalov third round, possibly the likes of Humbert fourth round. It's difficult to know, because Djokovic has had a rubbish run of form, it's fair to say, in the last, over the clay court season. However, he may have a bit of impetus. He's got a new coaching setup, of course. We discussed the other day about Andy Murray leaving his team. He has now explained this week that he will be working with Dusan Vemic and Boris Bosniakovic. Dusan Vemic is the Serbian Billie Jean King Cup captain, and someone who's worked with Djokovic before. He's been around on the tour for a while, isn't he? Back when he was an active player. And Boris Bosniakovic, who will be sort of his assistant coach and analyst. So they, we'll have to see what kind of impact they have on Djokovic, whether they'll give him that extra spring in his step that he's been missing. It's really hard, though, not to see Djokovic at a slam going deep. This is Djokovic's bread and butter. And
especially with this draw, I think
he's got a good enough draw, in this section for him to play his way through and go deep here, personally.
It is a good draw, I'd say, in terms of, if you look to the latter rounds, I think Medvedev obviously is normally seeded a bit higher, but on clay, you'd think that could be a winnable match. But all of it depends on which Djokovic turns up. And I think that's something that we just don't know this season. He does tend to turn up more at the bigger tournaments, like the semi-final of Australia, and taking out Carlos Alcaraz in the quarterfinal. But since then, there's not really been signs of that sort of form. But as you say, you can't count him out. So it might be on a match-by-match basis. We might have to reassess our predictions based on which Djokovic turned up at the start of the tournament, and maybe that Djokovic will stay. Yeah,
I think also this section, two Brits, Jacob Fernley is up against former champion Stan Wawrinka, and we've got Cameron Norrie up against Daniel Medvedev. I think Norrie, that's winnable for Norrie, isn't it? I think they're both winnable, and I think we could see maybe one of the two Brits.
The Brits are rising, are they?
Get a few rounds under their belt. Yeah.
Who's going to go deepest then out of the Brits?
I think
I've got Norrie.
Well, I've got Jack Draper.
Jack Draper. Yeah, sorry.
I've got a feeling about Norrie. I think he's going to get a few rounds
really?
in.
He's back.
I think Fernley's got a very good chance of possibly making maybe like the third round or so. Like, I think he's in a very nice section. Wawrinka, I just feel like he's past it now.
Goodness, he's got a wild card, Joel, former champion.
I know. I'm sorry to say
your
that.
elders, he's 40.
I don't think Fernley's going to show much. I think that could even be like a straight sets job to Fernley. But I think he's in some really good form. So wouldn't be surprised if he, makes a little dart in week one.
It still feels quite open, and we probably never say that for a quarter that contains Novak Djokovic, but probably for the first time ever, this is a somewhat more open Djokovic quarter. And Zverev, will he, won't he? Question marks.
There's so much uncertainty, isn't there?
There is. We need to embrace it. And I think let's move on to the bottom half of the draw now, because we do have, again, maybe quite a wide open quarter. We've got Taylor Fritz as the highest seed in the third quarter as the fourth seed, but we've also got Lorenzo Musetti, who's had some good form over the clay season, and he's the eighth seed. However, we've also got Barcelona champion Holger Rune as the 10th seed, and maybe some other players who could throw a spanner in the works. Thomas Machak, perhaps. It's really hard to call it. I've really struggled with this section when making my predictions. Taylor Fritz is the highest seed here. He's currently in the quarterfinals in Geneva. Do we think he will, justify that seeding?
Oh, he's not justified it, I think, so far in the clay swing, has he?
No.
Not a lot this year, if we're being completely honest. So this bottom half of quarter three, if that makes sense, I really struggle with who's going to come through. I think there's going to be a surprise package potentially, because Seb Korda's not famously a clay quarter. Neither is Alex Mickelson. Taylor Fritz isn't either. And you start looking at some of the form book. TFO's also in there, and he's not had much form either. So if there's the open section, if we're talking about the most open, I think it would be this. Would be 16th of the draw. I don't know how to explain that better, but
is it? I'm looking at some patterns here. All the seeded players in this area are American. Tiafoe, Korda, Mickelson.
I think an American might not make it through though, and that's what's so crazy about this section.
I just feel like if it's open, there's going to be like some opportunity for an Italian, given
or an Argentinian. I'd love a deep run for an Argentinian.
Yeah. I mean, Navoni is in there unseeded. Maybe
he's got some.
Dairy. I boldly predicted him a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah,
Madrid.
Baez unseeded as well. Feels
Baez. Capriva. I mean, it could.
Take a look in this section. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe plays a wild bet. I don't know. This could be the section where a real rogue, like first time, quarter finalist comes through, or we could just get Musetti, for example, or
could be Musetti Fritz. It honestly could be. Yeah.
And finally, last but not least, the fourth quarter at the bottom does have Carlos Alcaraz as the second seed and defending champion. We've also got Casper Ruud in this section and Tommy Paul, former finalists Stefanos Tsitsipas also there, and Ben Shelton, Alexei Popyrin, etc. Carlos Alcaraz opens against Nishikori. They've never played before, but obviously Nishikori back in his day was a three-time French Open quarterfinalist. However, I can't imagine he's going to provide too much trouble for Carlos, but he might potentially have a couple of tricky next rounds. Marushan, that the Hungarian player who did beat Alcaraz a few years ago on clay, or Mopeci Pericard, the French player with a home crowd. Third round could be a possibility. Do you think Alcaraz has got anyone to worry about, like in this draw? Do you think he's going to sort of come through comfortably? What are your initial thoughts, Chris?
Well, he has lost to Marushan before on clay in 2023. Alcaraz has, if they make it there. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I think that probably would be more than one step too far. That would be pretty rogue. I think Alcaraz is going to come through. There weren't many gasps for the Kei Nishikori first round match. I think people thought that would be a good one, but I don't think they thought that was a particularly terrible draw. I can't see there being too many problems here, because I don't think that Pericard has done particularly well either recently, especially on clay. He's been broken quite a lot. I think if anything, it's probably his worst surface. So from a seeded perspective, not the most tricky, but Tsitsipas on his day, that could be a potential threat. But beyond that, I'm not sure there's that much that can trouble the world number two here.
Are we confident Tsitsipas would even get, get to the point of playing Alcaraz?
Echeverry is a tough first round for him as well. So, but there is a lot of lucky losers or qualifiers in that section. So I'm thinking someone might be able to make it through, like Ben Shelton or Stefanos Tsitsipas there.
Maybe Tommy Paul would like some more security for his truck. He will want a big paycheck at Roland-Garros.
Maybe a bigger truck, maybe another truck in case
Just
he
get
loses.
another
Upgrade.
truck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, should Alcaraz come through, obviously we could get we could get an Alcaraz Musetti maybe semi-final. I don't know. It's looking like Alcaraz is definitely the strongest candidate, obviously, to come out of this.
Not Casper Ruud. Casper Ruud's got form, French
He's
Open.
won one game in his last match, Joel.
Yeah, that's that
My
that
excitement has
defeat to
dwindled.
Sinner,
Okay, all right.
after he won the Madrid
He
title,
shot his bolt too early, is what we're saying in the close season.
against
Okay.
Sinner
But
is-
Tommy Paul, I think, could be a real contender for a deep run for an American player. If I had to pick an American who's going to make the deepest run, I think Tommy looked really good in Rome.
Yeah, and Rome, as we know, the conditions do play similar to Roland-Garros. So is that the best indicator than, say, for example, the Madrid results? Let's make our predictions then.
Here
for
we
men's.
go.
We'll go quarter by quarter. I'm going to come to each of you and we'll see where we end up at the end and who we've got as our champions. And we're also going to be doing a bold prediction as well at the end. So any rogue ideas that we've got that might happen over the next fortnight. So quarter one, Jannik Sinner's in this quarter. Have we got him reaching the quarterfinals? Joel?
I've got Sinner versus Draper.
Okay. Confidence with Draper. Chris?
I mean, I'm worried. I've got the same. Sinner Draper.
Okay. I'm not very confident. I've gone for Sinner against Jakub Mensik.
Him. What about
Yeah,
Jack?
Interesting.
Call me a, I don't know,
Non-patriotic.
British. Yeah, non-patriotic. I was trying to find the word then. But I don't know. I don't want to tempt fate. He's never won a round at Roland-Garros. So, first things first. Quarter two, Joel?
I've got Cerundolo versus Djokovic. I think Djokovic got quite an easy-ish path in week one. I think he will overcome Medvedev if that matchup happens. But I think he'll face Cerundolo.
Okay. Chris?
I've gone Cerundolo as well, but I've gone Medvedev.
Okay.
I think Klaverdev's coming back. I don't know why this is happening. There's nothing that would make me think that would be happening.
Is he finally going to win a title?
I'm not sure that's going to happen, but I do think that he might benefit from potentially Djokovic going out a little bit early here.
Yeah, he could be the one to come through as a result. I've got Djokovic making the quarters though, and I've got Zverev still making the quarters. I
Oh,
think.
So all of those
Really?
question marks were not question marks for you, Kim.
Well, I'm just going with kind of previous, really. Zverev has reached the final here last year. Djokovic is Djokovic. So I'm going to go a bit with the old guard rather than recent form. Quarter three, though, Joel?
Rune versus Fritz. I'm not actually confident saying that because of Fritz's form. But
Fritz, sorry, what have you been talking about the whole podcast?
yes, I know. You can tell I made these predictions earlier, but I'm gonna have to back what I put down. Rune versus Fritz.
Okay. Chris, I assume you don't have Fritz then?
No, but then I've also just looked at what I put, and I put Musetti Darderi. So
An all-Italian quarterfinal. I'd love that.
Daring.
quite a
Darderi.
daring prediction. I'm following after you, Kim, because you predicted a Darderi deep run previously.
If it happens, I'm
You
gonna
can take partial
lay
credit.
some. Yeah, thank you. I've gone for Musetti as well, but I have got quarters. But I don't think he will go beyond that necessarily.
Okay.
Interesting.
And quarter four, finally, Joel.
Paul Alcaraz.
Okay, Tommy Paul's getting another truck.
Another truck.
Chris.
I mean, I do think that Tommy Paul is going to go further than Casper Ruud, but I always pick Casper. I'm willing this to happen by predicting it. So I've gone Ruud Alcaraz.
He's a finalist here previously, isn't he? So I've gone for Casper Ruud as well, but with Alcaraz. So yeah, same as you, Chris. So we've got our quarters. Let's do our semi lineups now. So Joel, what are both your semis?
Got a rogue semi in the top half.
Oh wow!
Draper versus Cerundolo. Rune versus Alcaraz.
Sorry, so neither Sinner or Djokovic is coming through your quarterfinals.
I'm back in Jack Draper. I'm back in Jack Draper.
Never been past round one.
Not sure where that's coming from, but I'm channeling the Jackie Drapes energy.
The Jackie, right.
Okay. And your other semi, sorry?
Rune versus Alcaraz.
Alcaraz. Okay. That's a bit more normal. Chris, what about yourself?
So I don't know how I've got in the situation of saying that Medvedev's making the semis, but I believe that he might be, wearing Lacoste, championing them, representing them. He's playing Sinner, if you ask me.
Okay.
And then it's Musetti Alcaraz.
Okie doke. Well, I've gone very similar to you, Chris. I've gone for Sinner versus Djokovic instead of Medvedev.
No chance.
I've gone for Musetti Alcaraz.
I prefer yours. I have more confidence in your prediction.
I mean,
Djokovic in the semi-finals. I just can't.
You said this for the Australian Open.
How many Grand Slams has he won, Joel?
I know, but he's playing a 250 in Geneva, Kim.
Yeah, but that's going to be the
title 100 will take him to title 101.
Yeah. He'll credit dropping down to 250. He'll credit his new coaches, and he'll probably end up potentially winning
everything.
Another slam. I don't know. Yeah, I haven't gone him all the way, but we'll see. Right, final and your champion, Joel.
My final is Jack Draper versus Carlos Alcaraz, and I have my champion as Rafael Nadal.
Yay!
Yeah. Oh, again, number 15. I just had to check. I was reading, being I didn't see him on the draw.
Yeah. No, I've got Carlos Alcaraz as my champion. I think he could defend title from last year.
Okay, Chris?
I've gone for the same. He looked very impressive at the draw ceremony. Lot of energy. But I think he will win. I think he's going to beat Sinner. It's going to be a repeat of the Rome final. More competitive, but it's the final that probably everyone wants to see. Unless you're a Djokovic fan, obviously.
Unless you're me.
Yeah.
I've gone for Sinner Alcaraz as well. I've gone for the top two seeds. Call that boring. I don't know. I think it'll be another fascinating installment in their rivalry. I've gone for Jannik Sinner to win, though. And I mean, I don't know if I am fully behind that. I just don't like to tempt fate because I
So
probably
you are
would
looking
prefer
for an
Alcaraz to win.
Okay, that's what that one means.
This was, historically, I never predicted Rafa to win. Yeah. So it's sort of like a reverse
Nadal
logic.
fans used to get quite cross with you, Kim. So hopefully Alcaraz fans have heard the logic and will respect it.
But also, I can see Sinner also winning. I think
you can't say both, Kim. Come on, you put Sinner.
Oh, yeah, I'll put Sinner. I'll stick by it. But don't be surprised if Alcaraz wins. For me, though, that the joy is maybe the earlier rounds. I think, and seeing the kind of very open sections that we've just discussed. I think some of that is more up in the air than previous renditions of slams, and I think that's actually the more exciting bit for me at this stage anyway, before the tournament. So yeah, we've got two Alcarazes and a Sinner for the winner. Bold prediction time now. What rogue thing is going to happen? This can be from any round, anywhere, any player. Chris, I'm going to come to you first. What do you think?
I think a trio of the same generation, the mid-gen as I call them, are going to go out in round one. I think I'm going for a triple, like an accumulator here, I guess. Zverev, Fritz, and Tsitsipas are all going out in round one.
Ooh, some big seeds going out early then.
I think that's in line with my predictions, I hope.
Yeah. No, I can see. Yeah, I can see at least one or two of them going out early. Whether it's round one, we'll see. Well, I'll go next. I've gone for Cameron Norrie to make the fourth round and play Novak Djokovic.
Oh, wow.
You've gone all in.
What is going on there?
And I've also got that perhaps João Fonseca could beat Draper in the third round.
So you're giving the Brits something with one hand and taking with the other.
Yeah. I don't know. I was just, analysing their draws and I thought, maybe. Yeah. What about you, Joel?
I've got Tien defeating Zverev, and I'm just going to say it. I think he's going to defeat him in straight sets.
Okay.
In round one, and I'm just going to throw another bold prediction out there that completely goes against what I've just said in my predictions and my quarter by quarter predictions. Jacob Fernley is going to be the last Brit standing.
Right. Okay.
In the men's
you heard
draw.
it here first.
That is interesting, and I thought you were going to say that Tommy Paul wins the title and gets gifted a Renault truck.
Oh, yes.
Ooh.
The vehicle of the tournament.
Yes, sorry. I'm just going to add one more. Tommy Paul gets his truck repossessed again because he goes out. He goes out earlier. Yeah.
Oh, that's not a good news story.
Poor Tommy.
Oh.